Welcome to another episode of Yesterday's Capers. I'm Abdullah Moallim, and every week I'll be bringing you the very best shows from the past that this world has to offer. This week, we'll be taking a look back at some of the most memorable black cartoons. We've got C Bear and Jamal going up against Waynehead. And for the main event, we'll be breaking down the brilliant cartoon that is The Boondocks. We'll look at how this cartoon impacted the black community and how they dealt with certain topics that shaped our very culture. And I'll let you know what my top 3 Boondocks episodes are. Let's see if you agree or disagree. So let's get started. And joining me as ever, it's producer Paul.
Hey Abs, how's it going?
Very, very well, thanks. I'm looking forward to this episode.
Second week into Black History Month.
Yes, I'm loving it. I wish it could be Black History Month every month.
It should be. It should be.
Spoken like a true ally there, Paul. We appreciate that. Definitely invited to the cookout.
Again.
Yes, again. You get 2 passes now.
I'm going to try every week to get invited.
We're going to go all the way back to February 1996. And so some of the things that were happening in the world. So the IRA declared its 18-month ceasefire, brought it to an end. And then they decided to bomb Canary Wharf. So that was unfortunate. Also, Serb forces withdraw from Sarajevo, ending the siege after 1,425 days, which is the longest siege of a capital city in the history of modern warfare. Also, Take That officially announced that they were breaking up. Oh, I remember that time. It was hysteria and the absolute scenes.
I don't remember.
I think
I don't remember Take That
girl
being...
committed suicide because of it.
I think loads of people committed suicide.
But there was, I think, one girl in particular who committed suicide. And Broken Arrow was the highest grossing movie of February 1996. And Babylon Zoo with Spaceman was number 1. Actually, I was going to say this was a tune, but it falls off a cliff after the intro.
I've never heard it.
You've never heard of Spaceman?
No. I mean, I'm shaking my head as if you can see me.
I can't believe you ain't heard this. This song was everywhere back then. And this was what, I was in year 3 and...
I bought my first... As you know, I didn't even buy my first album. I think it was 2001. My sister got it for me as a Christmas present. She bought me my first music album. Before that, I wasn't interested. That's my caveat of not knowing any of the music tracks.
I mean, that might be down to me as well. But it's not my fault these songs were number 1. I'm telling people what happened and some of the things that was popping. If it's not something that you like, that's nothing I can do about it.
Yeah, but I just don't know about it. Just never heard of these songs. They come out of nowhere.
Well, that's
a bit like...
Well, that's down
today's
to
cartoons.
you. Yeah. Okay, yeah, you segued it on now. Now we're going to be talking about C Bear and Jamal. Now, this was kind of an animated musical comedy. It kind of features an elementary age schoolboy named Jamal, who had a companion called C Bear, who was kind of like a hip-hop teddy bear with a deep voice and rapped. And also... they kind of talk to each other, and C Bear creates all these imaginary scenarios for Jamal. He kind of, along the way with episodes, kind of teaches Jamal what it means to be an adult, what it kind of means to be a decent human being. So he'll kind of show Jamal some of the things like in his imaginary world, kind of show Jamal a different point of view. And he'll always come to the conclusion that the grass isn't always greener on the other side, whether it's because you're poor, whether it's because you don't have the latest trainers. you can always be yourself and be true to yourself. Now, tell me what you know about C Bear and Jamal.
C Bear and Jamal, I had never heard of. I didn't have a clue what it was. So I thought, brilliant. As everything we do nowadays, I'll Google it. I Googled it. There was the intro, which I watched. And from the intro, I got there's a bear that does hip hop. And there's a boy
Jamal.
called Jamal. And that's all I could ascertain from the intro. And then I went to look at episodes, and there's a little thing. Oh yeah, full episodes. And there was some. I can't even do it politely. There's just some morons talking over episodes of C Bear and Jamal.
Was this YouTube?
YouTube. There was like was it Logan Paul? I don't care about naming them.
Oh, well, they're fighting, aren't they?
They're just talking about it, and I was like, please, can you just like pipe down? Because I'm trying to listen.
Why are they talking over C Bear and Jamal?
I have no idea. I think it's one of these like, I'm going to watch it and I'm going to comment on it and blah, 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 blah. Please just don't do that. Just stop it.
Well, a bunch of white guys talking about a black cartoon.
Yeah, I mean, I really can't talk much there, but at least I'm not a bunch of white guys. I could probably make up for the lack of white guys here.
Yeah.
Yeah, but in all seriousness, I couldn't find any episodes to watch. I watched the intro. That was all I could find.
With C Bear and Jamal, I did find episodes to watch because I take this very seriously.
Hey, man.
Look at him. No, I probably should have sent you a link, so it's on me as well. So
Yeah, but I just don't know how you found it. I've searched for ages for it. At least
I literally wrote on Google "watch C Bear and Jamal" online, and I managed to find a couple of hits. So
right. Luckily, I've got my.
what are you doing? You're not taking another long break, are you?
No, I'm not taking another long break. And apologies for a few weeks ago. I'm just gonna try and prove you wrong.
There's a ton of episodes. I managed to watch like at least 4.
4 episodes.
Yes.
Okay. Anyway, we better we'll probably edit that all out. But
So some of the characters in C Bear and Jamal, obviously you got Jamal Wingo. You've got his dad, who's Hawthorne. He's a single father. His wife passed away. I happened to watch an episode, fortuitously for me, was covering that whole thing. Also, he has some friends. So he has Maya. She's like a really, really loud girl, but she's also very smart. You've got Big Chill, who's Jamal's fat friend. I read that on the internet somewhere that he has a catchphrase, but I've never ever heard him say the catchphrase. Apparently, his catchphrase is the BIGCHI is in his house. I've never heard him say that, and I probably said that wrong. I already sound like a really old man. The BIGCHI is in his house. I think that's about right. And then he's got like this Afrocentric friend who I love, Kwame. So he's kind of like pointing at things going, oh, this is conspiracies done by the man. And why is that traffic light racist? So the white thing comes out first and then the red thing comes out last. What's that all about, eh? It's hilarious. And some of the episodes that I managed to watch, one of them was Emperor's New Gear. So they're starting school and Jamal's father, Hawthorne, was like, oh, I'm going to get you some brand new clothes. And it turns out that the clothes were really, really cheap. And Jamal he didn't really like those clothes. He was like, oh my God, I haven't got new clothes. I'm going to look really, really weird going back to school. And so C Bear kind of takes him on this adventure where they come across this sort of singing person wearing all purple. So I think he's resembling Prince. And I believe Jamie Foxx does the voice for this. And so he kind of shows him that it doesn't really matter what you wear as long as you're true to yourself. That was a pretty nice episode. Another one was The Prince and the Po Boy. And so this is where Jamal goes to see his cousin. I think his cousin's name was Russell. And so they go to his house and Jamal's thinking, oh, he's really, really poor. He comes from the sticks. I'm going to have to show him the ropes. And he's got this like action man. I think it's called like Nubian Man or something. And so they're trying to go off and play with this Nubian Man thing. And then it turns out that the cousin is really, really rich. So they're going to the house. He's got like a swimming pool. He's kind of got like a room full of the Action Man figures. And so he kind of lies to Russell going, oh, I live the same too. I live in a nice big house. I'm really, really rich too. And then C Bear kind of shows him what it would be like if Jamal was rich. And so Jamal doesn't really like it because he's very, very lonely. He misses his dad. He misses his grandparents who also live in his house. And so he kind of tells Russell, look, I don't live like you live, but I've got some really, really cool friends. And then he's trying to get his friends to be a lot more classier. And they obviously are like, oh, whatever, Jamal, we are who we are. And we don't really care about that fancy, bougie, classy stuff, which is what Kwame was saying. And yeah, that was another good episode. Sleepers in South Central, that was another episode that I actually really liked. So basically, Hawthorne, he kind of fancies the male lady and they go out on a date. I don't know why it was called Sleepless in South Central. I don't know if it was a play on words with Sleepless in Seattle, but because I've never seen Sleepless in Seattle, so I
Me neither.
know. I think my sister would have been good to talk about that because it's a rom-com film. But yeah, so Sleepless in South Central. So Jamal is like, oh, I don't really want my dad going on dates and I don't really want him seeing other women because he's probably thinking he's trying to replace his mum. But obviously that's far from the truth. And so C Bear and Jamal go out of their way to sabotage their first date. So they just get up to all sorts and they just completely ruining this first date. And so C Bear kind of makes him see, okay, well, if you want your dad for yourself, this is what's going to happen. So he kind of shows him what happens if you don't let your dad move on and you don't let your dad see other people. So he's going to be in Jamal's life all the time. So when he's graduating from school, his dad's going to be by his side. When Jamal gets married, his dad's going to be by his side. When he's old and grey, his dad's going to be by his side. And so he's thinking, oh, man, I need my own space. And then he kind of realizes, okay, maybe I should give her a chance. Maybe I should let my dad kind of see other people. And then obviously his dad was like, look, nothing's going to replace your mum. She has a special place in my heart and she has a special place in your heart. She's never, ever going to leave you. So don't worry about that. And the last episode that I saw, The Truth and Nothing But the Truth. So this is where basically Jamal, he wants to work for the newspaper. And so he has to try and sort of give advice to people. So he has this kind of thing where it's called Joe 411. So he's basically giving the 411 to people. And he starts to be too honest with people. And then obviously people don't like it when you're way too honest. So he's saying to Big Chill, oh, you're fat or whatnot. He's telling Maya she's too loud. He's telling Kwame that why are you so paranoid all the time? He then tells his dad, like, why are you not training? You're a bit overweight. And he kind of grasses up on his dad and kind of tells the gym that he's supposed to go to that, oh, here's my dad. And he kind of learns that while you should be honest with people, you shouldn't always try and hurt people's feelings. So yeah, that's C Bear and Jamal. So that was kind of like your typical episode where you have a situation, and obviously C Bear in rap form would sort of explain to Jamal about the rights and wrongs and just advising him that you should go about certain things in certain ways. So in that sense, I really like C Bear and Jamal, and this was a cartoon that I did watch when I was a kid. I watched a few episodes of C Bear and Jamal. It used to come on CBBC. I mean, not for a long period of time. It was maybe like they used to show it like once in a blue moon, or they just had one period where they were showing it. But it's amazing that they didn't get much episodes, considering it was on the Fox Kids programming block. You'd think they would have had more opportunities to flourish and grow. And I do think the concept of C Bear and Jamal was a good concept, where he's learning like life lessons. He's learning about the rights and the wrongs and things like that. So it could have gone on longer, but it's one of those things where they had 2 seasons, maybe about 13, 14 episodes in total.
It's barely anything, is it? And it's amazing when you see what cartoons make it, and what cartoons get the chop. As you know, you only have to do a little bit of a look into that to see how kind of racist it is. I can't think of any other word to word it, but it is because it kind of.
I mean, if it was, I don't know, W Bear and Billy,
yeah,
they would have got.
Good old Billy.
They would have milked that.
They would.
Yo, hey, Billy.
No, but it's just like, cause it's nothing
Look
wrong.
how Johnny Bravo, that fool got like how many years
misogynistic
on TV?
white guy versus a morally correct kind of black kid with a little hip hop bear chop straight up.
Yeah, but oh, mama, that gets you 4 or 5 seasons, a long run right into like the noughties. So yeah. Moving on now to the other cartoon of ours, and we're going to October 1996. And so some of the things that happened. So Rupert Murdoch and Roger Ailes launched Fox News. What a force of good they've been. And the former Prime Minister of Bulgaria, Andrei Lukhanov, is assassinated. Sleepers was the #1 grossing film in October 1996, and Say You'll Be There was #1 by the Spice Girls. I think deliberately some of these shows are going to come out when they're #1. So you can imagine another program we do, I don't know, Hey Arnold. I bet like, God, what's a Spice Girls song? Spice Up Your Life. That will probably be #1.
Was there a time when like Spice World, the movie was the thing, and then their songs was #1 as well?
Dreadful movie.
I never watched it, but
I did.
My sisters definitely watched it.
Awful movie. I actually don't mind the Spice Girls. Some of their music is very catchy and girl power and whatnot. I'm all for that, but it's a horrible film.
I don't even. I remember my sisters watching it but I don't remember watching it. I think it was one of those. That's disgusting. I'm going outside.
I mean, yeah. Don't come at me, okay? I love the Spice Girls. I love all of their music and what they represent. But Spice World, no. And you won't see me mentioning that film when I do my roundup of the things that happened. Not a chance. I don't care if it's the highest grossing movie of all time. I ain't ever gonna mention that film apart from mentioning it now for the last minute or so. Anyways, now on to Waynehead. Now this was a yes, Waynehead. This was a Canadian American animated series which was created by Damon Wayans. So the Wayans bros, they were kind of behind Waynehead, and then obviously this was about a boy called Wayne, and he's from a poor background in the borough of Manhattan. So this is the Chelsea neighborhood, and obviously the backdrop is just them living in this really sort of poor, lower class neighborhood. And so every episode is just kind of looking at that and kind of dealing with the challenges that kind of come with it. And obviously Wayne has a club foot, or he's suffers from club foot, and the episodes or the shows kind of deal with that, and it kind of describes the challenges of having a disability. Now, we spoke about this before recording. I'm not gonna lie, I'd never even heard of clubfoot. If you'd asked me what clubfoot was, I'd just be going, That's the only clubfoot I knew prior to...
Did you never watch EastEnders?
Yeah.
They did a whole thing about, was it Kat and Alfie had a baby, right? And he had clubfoot. And then...
When was this?
And then Vonnie and... It must have been Vonnie and Jack had a baby.
Oh, is this when they swapped the babies?
They swapped the babies over. Oh, my God.
Oh, Ronnie and her crazy self.
And that's how they knew kind of the baby was thing, because they had a clubfoot. But this was ages ago. I think
is that how they found out about the clubfoot?
No, but it was one of the things. It was one of the... because they dragged it on for months.
That storyline went on forever.
Didn't they make it go in like January?
Because it started around January, and it went all the way to like the spring.
Yeah, and it was like
well into the spring.
Wellington Spring.
Well into the spring.
I thought it was like a different thing.
Wellington Spring. No. But no, yeah, I'd never heard of. As a disability, I'd never heard of clubfoot.
I thought it was a kind of thing that if children have it, they grow out of it fairly quickly. Like I think they I might be mistaken on that.
He wears a
boot,
a big boot. So it's like, yeah. But no, and also in Waynehead, you had probably some of the Wayans brothers. So I think Marlon, he starred in a couple of episodes. I think Gary Coleman starred in one episode as well. So that was using your connections in a positive way. Some of the characters in that program, obviously you had Damien Wayne, or aka Waynehead. You obviously had Marvin, you had Mo Money, Roz, Tooth, and Blue. So there were some of the characters. Again, this was, as you were saying with C Bear and Jamal, this was a cartoon that you'd have to struggle to find anything on the internet that could tell you what or how you could watch it. Because, I mean, so far I've been very fortunate that I've managed to find a decent amount of content to watch with some of the episodes throughout. Even like some of the obscure BBC shows, like I didn't think I'd find anything on Aquila, but there was
Aquila was easy to find though.
There was tons and tons of stuff on Aquila, which I was, quite surprised about. But with this show, man, it was I found one full episode and found one half episode.
I found one full episode as well, something called Rebel Without a Paw.
Rebel Without a Paw, yeah. So,
and you didn't mention Tripod in the. Does he only make an? Is it his only episode?
I don't think Tripod is a regular dog. I think he's like a neighborhood kind of thing where. Because I don't see him anywhere in the other episodes or in the other episodes.
He's on the intro though, right?
Is he?
I'm sure I saw him running around in the intro.
Again, yeah. This is what happens when you don't watch it, or not watch it, but like.
Because obviously I only found this one episode. I think it was like the last episode.
It was the final episode.
The final episode ever made.
Yeah.
And because Tripod which is three-legged dogs, just to be clear on that, I can't remember if you mentioned that.
Yeah.
Three-legged dog was friends with a little boy with a club foot. So I thought it was kind of their tag team. I've got bad foot, you've got no foot. And I thought it was kind of like a thing. I didn't realize it was just like a one-off.
I mean, no, because obviously when I did the research for this, I didn't really read anything about Tripod other than watching that one episode.
Yeah.
I mean, when I watched that episode, I got the impression that he was just a dog that was in the neighborhood. Obviously, he tried to bring him home to his family because he's got like an older brother and a younger sister and mum and dad. And they're just like, oh, get this dog out of here. He's weird. He's got 3 legs. What's that all about?
And he tries to make him a leg. Out of loads of different things.
Yeah, so I never really got that impression that he was a regular, but maybe he was, and it's just the case that we there's no way of us like ever knowing or ever watching it. Cause
I mean, to be fair, even if he was a regular, the show got canned after like 16 episodes or whatever it was, 13 episodes.
Was it? Yeah, October 96 until May 97.
That is
So it didn't even complete a calendar year. That's what? November, December, January, February, March, April, May. 7 months.
Yeah, it's nothing, is it?
No. Well, how are you gonna only commission a show for like 7 months? Like what was the condition with black shows? Like either you gotta make it a hit within like the first week, or else. I mean, it might be a case where if we end up doing more.
Sorry to butt in again.
Yeah, that's right.
What time? What month was this released in?
October 96.
October 96. At the same time, and it's something I mentioned to you just before we started recording. Hey Arnold was released. So I wonder if it fell foul of Hey Arnold in terms of like audience levels and things like that. Maybe it fell by the wayside. I'd never heard of this show for as basically any show that we've ever covered on here. I've never heard of. But yeah, so that's what I was just interested because remember before we started recording, I said it's kind of similar.
Yeah,
and it's kind of like kids and a thing, and kind of just up to their old shenanigans or whatever. And I said it's like Hey Arnold, and just a little quick Google said that it came out in October the 7th, 1996 and here we go. So to June 2004.
But to be fair, Hey Arnold is fantastic, and we will get to Hey Arnold real soon. I promise. Hey Arnold is it's outstanding. It might be one of my favorites, actually.
There's only one black guy in the lineup, though.
I know.
Just saying. Black History Month, and you're plugging Hey Arnold.
But he's a very important and significant character in Hey Arnold.
He's his best mate.
Well, yeah. Gerard Carmichael. Anyway, let's focus on the program we're actually talking about, and with Rebel Without a Paul, obviously you kind of deal with running around the neighborhood because obviously Tripod gets into it with another dog, and they're meant to have this like big old battle, and then while Tripod is kind of running away, he kind of runs into the woman who's like the dog catcher or whatever the official title for her was. But
I think it was the dog catcher. She worked for the City Pound.
No, that was a good episode and probably a good way to end that show. The other episode, as I was saying, because I've managed to find half of an episode, was Damie, Wayne, he's like really upset and jealous that he's not really getting any attention in the house. Like his older brother is getting all like the spotlight and the attention because he gets like this brand new job, and he kind of feels like, oh, I don't really have anywhere to kind of go. I don't really have like a brother, or like I don't feel like brotherhood. So he's like going outside and hanging out in the dark with his friends. And basically, his friends were like, oh, you don't need your brother. We're your brothers. Let's hang out and whatnot. And then when he kind of realizes that they all have to go back home, he's kind of left out on his own. So he kind of realizes that those bros outside ain't your bros, bro. Your bro at home is your bro, bro. Bro. So that's was half of the episode that I managed to find. So now we'll have to try and choose between the two. I mean, don't be at a rush, Paul, with your decision.
I think the choice is clear for me.
I think so too.
I thought it was quite a good show, to be fair. Like, not C Bear and Jamal. I can't comment on that one. I mean, the intro was all right. I mean, if we maybe we should just say purely based on the intro, because
why not?
Still Waynehead every time.
Oh,
And I
Waynehead.
thought even the hey ho was like kind of. It was like this is our podcast music, so I was like,
hey, ho. But I was saying to you, it's like the blackest opening credits ever. I love it so much. It's so black, and I love it. All black, everything. That's why I'm doing this. Black History Month. Fists in the air and all that good stuff.
yeah, I've got to be careful where I do that because some people might
get
the wrong idea.
You better put your fist down, boy. You know your place as a good ally. So did you actually choose then?
Yeah.
Or did we just go off on a tangent
I think we went off on a tangent, but genuinely I think even if you're doing it by the intros, Waynehead every time. It's so catchy. I mean, you'll be walking down the streets going,
Waynehead. Yeah, that's the thing that I remember as a kid. Like, if you'd said to me, oh, did you remember Waynehead? I'd be like, yeah, Waynehead, the party's just begun. Waynehead.
Oh, another thing as well, just going back to the Hey Arnold thing, they call him Football Head in this episode. And obviously the Football Head was Hey Arnold's, like,
move it over there, football head.
Yeah, every time, and that's what they're calling him this. Maybe.
Where did you get what? Who calls Waynehead football head?
Do you know the guy with the dog, the big old dog?
Yeah.
And he had a kind of girl on his arm and this and that.
Yeah.
He calls him Football Head, I think. Someone definitely calls it, 100%. Whether it's that geezer with the dog or not, I don't know. Pretty sure it is.
I don't think I heard that.
Oh, here we... Oh, no, I didn't write it down. But it's definitely there. I promise you it's there.
Okay, I'll pick... Stop that. It's going to be in my head for, like, the next week. I'm going to go with C Bear and Jamal. Not because I watched 4 times as much episodes as I did of Waynehead, but I'm going to pick C Bear and Jamal because of the concept of the show. I really like that in the episode there'd be a life lesson in there somewhere. I always like my cartoons and TV shows to have a message, to have something that people can kind of take away and kind of learn from. And I think C Bear and Jamal did that really, really well. And it's surprising that they never really got as much of a run. Maybe if the rapper who plays C Bear was a lot more famous. I think his name was like Tone Lock or something. He was the voice for C Bear, and I think he used that whole C Bear thing as his experience growing up. But maybe if it was a common or well-known rapper, maybe he would have got a longer run. But yeah, I really liked C Bear and Jamal. So
you're blaming the lack of success of C Bear and Jamal on the rapper? Just to...
Maybe. I don't know. I mean, maybe if they got someone like Snoop Dogg to do the voice of C Bear. God, what rapper was popping in '96? I was gonna say Tupac, but I think this is sort of about the time when he met his no, tell a lie. God, when did Pac die? He died in '96, didn't he? Anyway, yeah, maybe if they'd got like a common rapper who was well known and huge, maybe. I'm just putting it out there. I ain't got nothing against Tone Loc. Yo, shout out to my man Tone Loc. I'm gonna check out your collection. Maybe if you were trying to sell me a mixtape when I was in New York and I ignored you, I apologize. And yeah, man, got nothing but love for you. And now we go on to the main event, and this is The Boondocks, which came onto our screens in November 2005. So some of the things that were happening in November 2005, you had Angela Merkel, who became the first female chancellor of Germany. Sticking on to that kind of theme was Ellen Johnson Sirleaf. Not sure if I said the surname right. She was elected president of Liberia, the first woman to lead an African country. Good stuff. I believe George Weah now, the former footballer, is president of Liberia.
I have no idea. That's definitely that's a Google question, that is.
Now, George Weah is like a legendary African football player. I think he's like the first African footballer to win the World Player of the Year awards.
Really?
Yeah, so he was a baller. And also the first partial human face transplant was completed in Amiens, France. I think her name was Isabelle Dinois. So that's a breakthrough in medical science.
Why would you have a face transplant? Was there actually a reason, or was it a cosmetic reason?
I have no idea. Maybe
it's all cosmetic, but you know what I mean. Was it a choice, or was it a...
Well, transplant suggests that something was missing and they needed to replace. I don't know.
Yeah, but you can get a hair transplant.
Yeah, because your hair is missing.
No,
so
but...
you get a hair transplant.
Oh, fair enough.
I mean, that's the impression you get. Not necessarily missing, but something that you need anyway.
Yeah, but what I mean is a hair transplant, you don't need to get a hair transplant, right? But say, like, if your face got taken off, then you might need a new face.
Yeah, maybe that's what happened. And Get Rich or Die Trying was the film of November 2005. And in the background, you could hear Window Shopper by 50 Cent. Mad at me? I think I know why. Man needs a window shopper in the jewelry store, looking at ish you can't buy. I was about to swear, but this is a kids podcast. This is for the children.
Which brings us on to our next show.
Oh, yes, The Boondocks. Oh, my God. Where do we begin with The Boondocks? Okay, so this was an adult-themed cartoon sitcom created by Aaron McGruder. It's based on a comic strip of the same name. It's set in the fictional white suburb called Woodcrest. And so it's a black family, the Freemans. So you got Robert Freeman, Pee-wee Freeman, and Riley Freeman. So Robert Freeman, he was, I believe, a war hero. And he was also like a civil rights legend. Apparently, he sat on the bus next to Rosa Parks. And he doesn't like Rosa Parks because they kind of show a clip where they're saying, oh, get off and sit at the back. And he's like, no. And she also says no. But she's the one that ends up getting arrested. And he's like, what about me? What about me? I refuse. And the police officer's going, you stay out of trouble now. And obviously Rosa Parks gets arrested and she gets all the notoriety. And so he's really bitter and annoyed about that. You got Huey Freeman, who's like this young leftist, black radical revolutionary. He's also a retired domestic terrorist. He's a master practitioner of Chinese martial arts. And then you got his younger brother, Riley. And he's like the typical kind of misguided black youth. So he loves hip hop. He loves all the thing that kind of goes with hip hop and all of the fame and the fortune and everything with that. You also got the opening theme song, who was performed by hip hop artist Asheru. It's a great opening theme. And a lot of people think that Woodcrest is kind of based in Chicago's South Side, or kind of mainly in sort of the Illinois kind of area, in terms of some of the stories that they did, in terms of, I think there's a real life suburb called Crestwood in Chicago. So Woodcrest, Crestwood, they might think it's similar things. And yeah, so you had a lot of kind of like celebrity appearances. So often you would have Sway, who's kind of like a radio DJ Sway in the morning. Busta Rhymes in an episode. You had Snoop Dogg, Nate Dogg. You had Bill Maher as well, was in a couple of episodes. So yeah, you kind of had like a lot of celebrity influences, a lot of that kind of thing. You also had Samuel L. Jackson, who did the voice for Ed Winkler. So he's basically this psychopathic, trigger-happy former soldier who was kind of like discharged from Iraq. And him and his friend, sort of Gin Rummy, they always get up to no good, but they get away with it all the time because of their granddad, who is, I think, Ed Winkler Sr. So he's like this really rich guy, and so he uses like that clout and influence to always get his grandson and his friend out of trouble. And then also you got Uncle Ruckus, who is just absolutely hilarious, and he kind of loves the whole black slave culture, loves white people. He's like this self-hating guy who just, hates black people so much. And then obviously you got the Dubois family. He's like Tom, he's like this light-skinned lawyer, married to a white woman, Sarah, and they've got this kid called Jasmine. And in terms of the Boondocks, what were your kind of early impressions, and what do you think?
The Boondocks, I was, straight off the bat, I was horrified because I thought it was a kid's show. Because there's another show that I'd never heard of before. What channel was it aired on? Presumably not CBBC.
I mean, there's many kind of significant things about the Boondocks. I think this is probably, not only is it the youngest TV show that we're looking at, yeah, I believe so, in terms of like the beginning, because obviously with DuckTales we kind of had the old new version, but yeah, in terms of that, it's kind of the newest show. I think MTV showed the Boondocks, and yeah, this is definitely not for kids. I think the very kind of first scene, the first moment,
the first scene,
Jesus
I was
was
in
black,
hysteric.
Ronald Reagan was the devil, and the government is lying about 9/11. Woo!
And then his granddad's just like, stop lying to the white people. No, he goes, what does he say? Don't tell the white people the truth or something like that.
Yeah.
Brilliant.
Oh my God.
I was a bit not put off, but it was a bit strange that it was anime. Because it wasn't like just like a normal cartoon. It had a very specific anime style.
Yeah.
Which I thought was really peculiar for American black culture.
Yeah.
Because normally you see it, obviously, it's weird stuff.
I think one of the
people turning into
producers
pigs
may have
and stuff
been
like this.
Korean. So I think that may
okay.
be where that whole kind of manga/anime kind of look came from.
Fair enough. I just thought it was a bit weird. Only at first. I mean, obviously you get past it, but obviously anime is a very specific type of animation.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
And it's kind of used in normally within a particular genre. You know, it's normally really weird storylines. It's like normally overly gruesome as well, like with the studio, I don't know how to say it really, Studio Ghibli films, whatever they're called. Yeah. I don't know where I was going with that, to be honest.
But like with the Boondocks, again, because it was so adult themed and it was so real in that sense, they weren't afraid to really go after some of the topics and the events that happened during the day. So they would look at things like the government's response to Hurricane Katrina. The Iraq War was a common theme of that ran throughout, really, with the two guys, Gin Rummy and Ed Runkler III, who I found absolutely hilarious. So that was also something. And the constant use of the word, the N-word on like the show with the cartoons. And I think that kind of raised a lot of eyebrows. A lot of people were like, oh, what are you doing? What are you doing? But I think the producer, Aaron Magruder, was like, I want to keep this as real as possible, how people talk. And if I don't do that, then I'm not
being authentic.
Authentic and not being true and honest to the show.
Yeah, I found that as a white guy carrying a lot of white guilt, that's it's quite difficult to hear it. Do you see what I mean? Not to, obviously it's kind of part of the thing, but it's just a bit like, and I think there's like even the woman kind of alluded. There's a lady in the very first episode, and then that I can't remember what that geezer's name was, but he kind of a big guy, and he was drunk, and he was doing he was doing a song, I think.
Oh. No, I remember this, and he's just singing the song, and he's like, "Oh, I'm singing."
Maybe we'll try and dig it out and put it underneath because it was quite funny.
So funny! Oh, I was watching this in a cafe somewhere, and I'm just laughing my head off. And it's like, and all the white people are like, "What is he singing?" Uncle Ruckus, yeah.
And then the lady just goes, "I think it's okay if they say it."
Yeah.
And then they start clapping.
Oh my god, this is like Uncle Ruckus just makes me laugh, and the way he just is like, oh, I hate all y'all colored folk, and the white man, he's beautiful and great. And I will talk about the Passion of Reverend Ruckus, which is one of my favorite episodes of all time. It's the idea that it's so funny. And also with the Boondocks it was try to challenge how Black Americans would behave and think. So they would kind of use like the weird sardonic humor to kind of teach lessons. And it's just the way like the behavior of like certain Black people. I think before we get onto the episodes, I think one of the episodes of the Boondocks, again, it's one of my favorites, that was actually really, really controversial, was the return of Martin Luther King. So they did an episode, Return of the King, which was on season 1. And so this is where Martin Luther King, he wakes up from a coma after 32 years and he struggles to adapt to this modern world. So he gets asked about 9/11 and what he thinks, and obviously Americans were like, oh, we have to find these terrorists and we have to kill them all and all that stuff. And Martin Luther King is like, oh, we should turn the other cheek. We should try and be good like Christians and things like that. And everyone's like, what the hell are you talking about? What's wrong with you? And he becomes like ostracized. It's quite similar to like Martin Luther King's later years in real life. Like he becomes really like ostracized. He becomes like the most hated man in America. He really, really struggles to kind of find his way in the world. Like he thinks it's completely different because obviously you got like, I don't know, hip hop music. So he's watching like one of the music videos by Thugalicious, I think it's called.
Is that a real rapper?
It's not a real rapper, no. Thugalicious, I think it's called. Hang on, I'm gonna look this up. I don't think he's called Thugalicious. It's Thugnificent. That's it. Thugnificent. Yeah, that's the name. And Thugnificent has a song called Booty Butt Cheeks. So it's like booty butt cheeks.
Maybe we'll try and put this underneath as well.
It's such a stupid song, and he's watching that music video and he's like, what the hell happened to our people? What's going on? And he kind of sees just how strange everything has become, and he's trying to obviously use his philosophy to this kind of day and age, and it's not really working for him. And then Huey tries to motivate him and try to convince him to sort of revive the civil rights movement and try and create a black revolution party. And even then, that doesn't necessarily work out because nobody cares. But then he does this massive speech where he's like, what the hell happened to us? You've all lost your way. You've all turned into niggers, essentially. And he's like, not in the good kind, but in the really bad kind. And then after that speech, like, you just see like this whole wave of change. So like all the NBA players boycott, all the gangs like stop shooting each other. There's like this massive protest at the White House. And that episode kind of ends with Huey going, if only. And interestingly enough, it says Oprah Winfrey becomes president in 2020.
But she's not running, so she's definitely not going to be.
Well, they're not like the Simpsons. They're not going to get all of their predictions right. But yeah, like I said, that episode, it was really controversial. Everyone was kind of like, what the hell are you doing? Like, taking a mick out of us black people like this. But I think, again, Aaron Magruder was saying that in the episode, King is critical of our apathy and inactivity, and we carry the blame of our own apathy and inactivity, and we deserve to take a look at that and be honest about it. So his thing was, this is no lie. We are like this, and we should talk about it, no matter how uncomfortable it might make you feel. And so, episodes of The Boondocks.
Can I go? Because
yes,
my one is going to be significantly shorter than yours. So the pilot, didn't write any notes for it, but it was really good. So this first scene, for episode 1, series 1, episode 1 was when this little guy's name? Huey rocks up to the mic in the thing and then just says about Jesus is black, Ronald Reagan was a devil, and 9/11 was a lie, right? That's all he said.
Yeah. And they all think he's so cute.
I think he's all cute. They just clap him.
Like, oh, you're so cute.
And then I think his granddad's give him a smack and says, "Stop trying to tell the white people the truth." Or and then they get invited to this. Oh, what did he say about the white people with cheese? I thought that was hilarious.
Oh, they love different kinds of cheese. So he brings them like a whole plate of cheese, and like I think Ed Winklow, his name was. He's like, oh, this is lovely, lovely cheese.
Yeah. So then, and they get invited to this party, right?
Yeah.
And he has to take the kids with him, and he has to try and tell the kids stop doing this, and the other one to stop trying to shoot people.
And he ends up shooting Ed Runkler out of the
shoots him out of the window.
And then obviously I think you had Uncle Ruckus, who was just like, y'all niggers better behave yourselves. The white man is inviting you to his beautiful home. Bless the white man. And
at the end, all the white people just clapping.
Yeah.
Clapping for them.
And because I think Ed owns the bank that owns the house, so they kind of have a relationship in that respect.
I didn't really. Maybe there was something I missed in it, but I didn't really see like a proper point to the first episode, rather than just introducing the characters and the kind of overall setup of the.
I think they kind of did. I think they move into the house in the first episode. And they're like, oh, why do we have to move to this white neighborhood?
Okay, so it's just a setup episode.
I believe that.
Where are their parents?
I don't think they ever explain. I think this guy adopts them. So he adopts these two kids.
Oh, the grand. I thought it was their granddad.
I don't think he's like their biological biological granddad. And I think they don't explain the parents, so you just have to assume that their parents passed away.
Or in a
And
top secret mission.
possibly. And okay, some of the episodes that I watched and enjoyed, I think one of them was the trial of R. Kelly. So this was quite one of those iconic episodes. So this is where R. Kelly is brought to trial for urinating on an underage girl. The episode is the whole trial of R. Kelly. Riley, he's like a fan of R. Kelly. He's like, oh, let's go to the trial so I can support R. Kelly. But Huey's kind of like separating himself from that, and he's actually siding with the law. Like obviously R. Kelly is guilty of sin, but you got like people like black people in the outside the courthouse, and they're going, "Oh, free R. Kelly! You're only doing this because he's black, and you're discriminating against him. This is racism. This is all this and that." And so the lawyer of R. Kelly, he's kind of like, yeah, well, R. Kelly loves black women, regardless of their age. So does it really matter how old she is? And like everyone in the trial is getting brainwashed by it. And you got Tom Dubois, who's the lawyer. As I mentioned, he's like one of the sort of main characters. And he's kind of the lawyer for the little girl. And so he's basically saying, look, this is wrong. This is not what should be happening. But the lawyer's like, oh, who are you to talk, Tom? Aren't you married to a white woman? And everyone's like, oh, like you're married to a white woman. Like you don't deserve anything. And so basically R. Kelly decides to sing in the courtroom, and everyone's all singing and dancing, and Huey takes the mic and he's like, what the hell is wrong with everybody? Like, this is wrong. And then everyone's like, yeah, whatever, shut your mouth. And then they just go back to singing, and R. Kelly walks away scot-free.
I just read that Adam West played R. Kelly's lawyer in that. What a legend.
Adam West.
That's not the first time he's come up, actually, is it?
Yeah. And also another episode that because obviously R. Kelly's from Chicago. Again, this was another sort of hint that they were set in Chicago. Another episode was Gin, Rummy, and Ed Winkler III. They try to kidnap Oprah because I think she's going to be worth like loads of money. And so they end up kidnapping Bill Cosby because he goes to the wrong place. And they're like, oh my God, he's so boring because he's like, oh, what is wrong with you with the stealing and the kidnapping and the putting back the Bill Cosby? That voice. And so, yeah, anyway, and the one of the episodes from season 1 that I loved was The Passion of Reverend Ruckus. Now, Uncle Ruckus, he has a dream about white heaven. And so he's at the pearly gates and he's met by Ronald Reagan. And he's like, I really am the devil. God loves racism. And if you come, he's like, yeah, if you teach everybody about this white God and this whole idea that the white man is superior, I can take you to white heaven. And then he looks into reflection and he's white. And so he's like, oh, Lord have mercy. I is a white man. And so he kind of makes it his life mission to kind of teach everybody about white Jesus, white God, and how, you know, the black man is inferior in every single way conceivable. And he finds out that he gets diagnosed with some form of cancer. And he's like, you know what, I'm going to dedicate my life to preach and teach the world about how amazing the white man is. And also in this kind of episode, you've got a former Black Panther, I believe, who was in jail. And Huey's trying to sort of devise this comprehensive, cool scheme to try and bust him out of jail. but he can't make it to the jail because he can't get a ride. This kind of seems like Huey's plans always go to awry because he can't get a ride. But somehow there's like this massive lightning that strikes and it cures Uncle Ruckus of his cancer. And because it kind of shuts down the electricity in the city, the guy who's in jail doesn't get electrocuted in the end. And yeah, where this electric shock kind of happens, this is where Uncle Ruckus is doing this massive sermon. It gets sold out because white people love it so much. They're like, oh, hey, he's talking about me. This is so awesome. The white guy is awesome and all this stuff. And so he's basically going, I want you to turn to your left and turn to your right. If you see a nigger next to you, slap him. And so you see everyone just slapping the black person next to him. So he's just going, psh, psh, slap that nigger. Slap the black out of him. Psh, psh. It's just, oh my God. It's just, I watch it. It's like, this is so stupid, but it's so hilarious. Like, oh my God. And then some of my episodes that I watched from season 2, you had Thank You for Not Snitching. So this was an episode which kind of shows the black community's relationship with the police and how snitching overall was never kind of seen to be a good thing. So you had some home invasions, which was committed by Gin Rummy and Ed Winkler. So they're just basically going around robbing people. And so they decide to do a neighborhood watch. And so you had like Uncle Ruckus and this old white lady, and they basically try to go to the Freemans going, we want you to try and join this neighborhood watch so you can try and find these black people who are stealing these people's houses. And Robert's like, whatever, I don't care what you lot think. Like, get out of here, sort of thing. And so in the end, they're like suspecting them and Huey. And so Uncle Ruckus is like, I know you've been stealing those white folks' home, nigger. If I catch you, I'm gonna throw a brick in your head and all this stuff. And then they kind of show like this whole backstory about how people in the black community will never ever snitch. And when they do, they always end up getting killed for snitching. And it's just like, no matter what, you just don't snitch. And so I think Huey realizes that it's Gin and Ed who are doing all the robbing and stealing. And basically they're like, well, you need to tell us who did this. Otherwise, you and Robert Freeman, so Granddad, you're going to get arrested. And he was like, well, you can say what you want, but I'm never ever going to snitch. And they need a getaway car, so they steal Granddad's car. And Granddad's like, you better tell these police officers who stole my car. But Huey's insistent. He's like, I'm not a snitch. I'm not a snitch. I'm not going to snitch. I'm not going to snitch. And then the episode kind of ends with his bike getting stolen. And they're like, thank you for not snitching, Huey. And he's like, give me back my bike. Give me back my bike. And so how that episode kind of ends. Another really fun episode was the story of Thugnificent. So Thugnificent is like this really prominent rapper. Obviously, he's got like the big song, Booty Butt Cheeks. But he moves into Woodcrest. And obviously, he's bringing the whole hip-hop lifestyle into that neighborhood. And Granddad doesn't really like it. And so he's like, I'm going to file a complaint against you. And then as a response, Thugnificent makes a diss video called F Granddad, featuring Nate Dogg. Incredibly catchy. You got Nate Dogg on the hook as well. So that was a really good episode. And in the end, they're trying to reach a compromise and they're both incredibly stubborn. And so they're like, you know what? You can have your parties and whatnot as long as you're as long as you're very, very, very quiet. And the story of Catcher Freeman. So this was they tried to tell a story about a guy in sort of Civil War era called Catcher Freeman. So Granddad, he tries to tell the story that Catcher Freeman is this incredible man who used to like help black people escape from slavery, whereas Uncle Ruckus was like, oh, Catcher Freeman was the greatest ever slave catcher of all time. He used to be able to communicate with dogs. He used to climb the trees and he used to like catch as many black people who tried to go on the run. And then Huey finds out that Catcher Freeman was a slave, but he tried to like write scripts. So he was able to read and write, but he had this way with like writing scripts. And in the end, when all the other inmates try to escape, he sort of grasses them up and tells the slave owner that they're trying to escape. But then in the end, he kind of joins up with the others and he ends up killing his massa or master. So that's the story of Catcher Freeman. And the Granddad and Uncle Ruckus are both like, oh, I hate that version of the story because it's not necessarily their romanticized version. A couple of episodes that I liked from season 3 was It's a Black President, Huey Freeman. So this was where a German documentary filmmaker, he basically follows the Freeman family around and other residents from Woodcrest to the election and the inauguration of America's first black president, Barack Obama. And they try to get flashbacks of like how people in the neighborhood feel about it. So you got Huey, who's basically indifferent to the whole situation. So he's kind of like, meh, whatever. Ain't nothing much going to change. You got Granddad and Riley, who are both supportive of Obama for different kind of reasons. Riley's thinking, you know what? Oh, we're going to have a black president. I can while out. I don't have to go to school anymore. I don't have to do anything anymore. And then you got Tom and Sarah, so the Dubois, they're very supportive of Obama. And Tom, he's actually getting really paranoid because he thinks that Sarah, his wife, fancies Barack Obama. And then you got Thugnificent, who basically had no idea what was going on. And then he realizes, like, huh? Y'all got a nigga called Barack Hussein running for president? Man, I'm going to join in. And so he's like, oh, I love this. I love the idea of it. And so he goes on Bill Maher's show. And Bill Maher's like, oh, well, if you're so good and you know what you're talking about, name the 3 legislative branches. And so he's just sitting there blank faced and he's like, if you care about black rights, well, thank God I'm white. And let me ask you, actually, do you know the 3 branches of government in America?
I don't.
Legislative, judiciary, and executive, I believe.
Okay, yeah, no, I didn't know that. I mean, I work with a lot of Americans and I still don't know.
Anyway, the other episode from season 3 was It's Going Down. So there was a terrorist attack near Woodcrest, and Huey is like the main suspect in this, and he's like pursued by all these high-ranking secret agents. And season 4, one of the episodes that I kind of picked up was quite hilarious was Granddad Dates a Kardashian. So Robert, or Granddad, begins dating a long-lost Kardashian sister called Kardashia. And she has this reality TV show, so he ends up being on it. And Huey's like, oh, this is really horrible, and he doesn't want to be on it. And then he finds out that Kardashia goes to this doctor and she's getting like butt implants. And he realizes that they keep growing bigger and bigger and bigger. And he goes on, like, Robert's on a date with Kardashia, and the implants explode. And so she's like in a coma. and it kind of realizes that she's not a real Kardashian, and they just both, and she just ends up dying in the hospital. And so, yeah, those were some of the episodes that I really, really liked. I'm going to actually do my top 3 episodes of The Boondocks of all time. So,
is this a show that you watched just anyway?
I never watched The Boondocks.
Oh, so you're discovering it?
Yeah, this is really like... I mean, I knew of The Boondocks. I'd heard of The Boondocks.
Yeah.
I may have seen like 1 or 2 clips here and there on the internet, but it wasn't something that I watched. I know a load of my friends watched The Boondocks. They loved it. They used to tell me about how much they loved watching The Boondocks, but it wasn't something that I never ever got around to watching until now. Properly, that is.
Well, fair enough, because I'd never even heard of it.
At all.
Again, like I'd never heard of... Last week's show I did pretty well, right? We did Kachin,
so,
Keenan and the Kel. It was only the smart guy I hadn't heard of. This week again, I'm back to my normal, never heard of it. So I just thought I'd ask if you'd watched it before.
Never. Apart from, I wouldn't be able to tell you characters, names, things like that. But yeah, it was one of those things where I watched it and I was just like, this is so up my street. I really like it. They deal with subjects and they're not afraid to provoke reactions from audiences. They're not afraid to really delve into really heated and touchy subjects like the Iraq War. Like, as I was saying, Hurricane Katrina, and how the government's reaction or lack of reaction. So it was one of those where they really went there and they did it in the most hilarious way, and they did it in the most interesting way. So my top 3 episodes. In at number 3, I've got Thank You for Not Snitching. So as I was saying, the episode where they're home invasions and robberies committed by Ed Wonkler and Gin Rummy. So their whole dynamic with each other is just so funny. So I think one of them has like a Bluetooth headset. So he's basically going, oh yeah, baby, you looking fine. And he's like, you talking to me? And he's like, no, I got the Bluetooth on. I'm talking to this fine honey of mine. And so they're just all talking to this Bluetooth. And so like there's a bit in the house where it's so funny where he's like, oh, girl, you got it going on. And he's basically like bending over to get something. And he goes, why are you staring at my ass, man? And he goes, no, I'm talking to someone on the Bluetooth. He's like, man, you need to get rid of... And these white guys would say like nigger, like with impunity. They go, oh, man, you need to get rid of this nigger technology and all this kind of stuff. And they talk about, should we be saying the N-word? He goes, oh, but he goes, it doesn't mean nigger in that sense. It means it in a completely different sense. That's what it means. But yeah, their whole dynamic in that episode and just in general was so funny. Number 2, I've got The Passion of Reverend Ruckus. So again, this was when he dreams about going to a white heaven and he's trying to get everybody to believe in white Jesus and white God. And he wants to be side by side with Ronald Reagan. So it's just, again, that's just such a funny episode. And number 1, I believe the best episode of The Boondocks was The Return of the King. So the episode where Martin Luther King wakes up from a coma and he has to try and figure out and work his way through a completely different 21st century world, and he struggles. And so in the end, he decides to move to Canada, and he ends up living until he's very, very old, and he passes away in Vancouver, which is a very good choice to live if you're going to live in Canada, because Vancouver is beautiful, absolutely stunning. Loved Vancouver when I went there. And so, yeah, if you agree or disagree, or if you think there's an episode that I missed out on The Boondocks, let me know, because I would more than happily would love to go and watch those episodes. And that brings us to an end to this episode of Yesterday's Capers. Many thanks to producer Paul for joining me. And also, if you'd like to follow us on Twitter and the socials, we're on Instagram at Yesterday's Capers 1. We're on Twitter at Yesterday Capers. And you can follow me on Instagram at Abdullah_Moallim. And you can follow me on Twitter at Abdullah Moallim, one word. Send comments. Let us know what you think. Yesterday's Capers is available wherever you get your podcast from. So we got you covered on all angles. And join us next week for another episode of Yesterday's Capers.